we become selfish sometimes. So society teaches you that you have to be happy, you have to pursue things that make you happy. And so we don't grow up compromising. We just want to fulfill our desires. This is a third reason. A fourth reason why a lot of people get divorced is because of the involvement of the in-laws. Sometimes in-laws are a barakah in our lives. They're a source of blessings. They give us guidance, they give us support, they help us. And sometimes the in-laws, unfortunately, they complicate matters. I've seen many marriages end because of the in-laws, because of their constant meddling and involvement. Let them just live their life. It's okay. They'll figure it out. They're adults. You don't have to get involved in every little issue. And then sometimes, if the in-laws have unrealistic expectations of the boy or the girl, that also strains the relationship and it can destroy the marital relationship. One common challenge that I find in many communities around the world, my dear brothers and sisters, and I say this out of love and respect, not to criticize. Sometimes the in-laws, they begin to dictate things and they have very unreasonable expectations. Look, your mother-in-law, kiss her hand. She's a gift in your life. But our beloved mothers-in-law, they should also understand that we need our space sometimes. A mother-in-law cannot expect her daughter-in-law to be her maid, to go and serve her day and night. Islamically, I'm being very honest and respectful here. Islamically, that's not her obligation. A daughter has to serve her mom and dad. Your mom needs something, you better go help her and serve her. Allah expects you to do that. Your father needs something, yes. Your spouse needs something, yes. Your mother-in-law, you respect her. As I say, go and kiss her hand. She's like your mother figure. But she cannot control you. She cannot demand that tonight you do tasks in her house. If you willingly want to do that, ahlan wa sahlan, go and do it. May Allah bless you. I encourage you to do that. If you have extra time, extra energy, help your in-laws. You'll get reward for that. But you're not obligated under Islamic law. Any mother-in-law who forces her daughter-in-law, as an example, to do chores, to do things, to get work out of her, on the day of judgment, you will stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you have to answer to that. Allah never gave you that authority. Where are you getting that authority from? Your biological daughter, yes. Still be kind to her, okay? But you can expect her to help you if you need help. But not your daughter-in-law, not your son-in-law. Your son-in-law can help you willingly, and he should, and I encourage him to do so. Good son-in-laws will be very helpful. But he's not your servant. Don't expect from him to serve you like you expect your son. We have to respect the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A respected mother-in-law won't tell me, say it, but that's how I grew up. My mother-in-law bossed me around and I was a maid for her. Okay, so if you're a victim now, you want to victimize your daughter-in-law? That's not acceptable. Just because you had a bad experience in your family, in that culture, doesn't mean that now you inflict that on your daughter-in-law. At the end of the day, brothers and sisters, we have to see what Islam says. What does the Quran teach me? I don't set the expectations and the rules. Allah does. There's only one being in existence who's allowed to make rules, and that's Allah. No one else has the right to make rules besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, this is one cause for divorce. When we have unrealistic expectations and the in-laws, they get involved too much, this ends marriages, brothers and sisters. Wallahi, I've seen couples, spouses, if it weren't for the involvement of the in-laws, they could have worked things out. They would have had a beautiful life. On the day of judgment, I will stand before Allah. And you think now that you're in marriage, your son or daughter is happier? You think they're happier? Yes, sometimes there are serious situations you have to get involved. But a lot of times it's not that serious. It can be worked out. And for divorce is because of social media. We've lost contentment. I keep comparing my marriage to those Instagram marriages. those influencers and I feel unhappy. Oh, my marriage isn't romantic like that Instagram marriage. And then you start losing satisfaction with your marriage when you constantly compare, and that sometimes leads to divorces. So there are many reasons why we find divorces happening in the community. But at the end of the day, this is life. Divorce happens. By the way, brothers and sisters, when someone gets divorced in the community, there's one thing that we should never do. Don't judge them. You don't know what they went through. You don't know what their circumstances were. Because we have this tendency to stigmatize divorcees. Oh, that person is a bad person because that person is a divorced person. You don't know their circumstances. You don't know what they went through. Maybe they had every legitimate reason to get divorced. Maybe they were living with this toxic dictator at home and Allah saved them from that person. Never judge someone. If you don't know both sides, the story, the full case, you're not allowed to judge. That's something that we have to show respect for in our communities. So now we deal with a lot of divorce cases these days. And one of the consequences of divorce is that children suffer. They are the biggest victims of a divorce, of a broken marriage, of a broken family. And it's therefore very important that if someone needs to get a divorce, for whatever reason they believe this is the best, there's no room for reconciliation, if you have to pursue divorce, at least make it a smooth divorce. A nasty divorce, a tough, difficult, toxic divorce will ruin the psychology of your children. And they're an amana in your hand. So if you have to get a divorce, make it smooth. Be on good terms. Okay, khalas. You can't live with this person, part your ways. It doesn't have to be toxic and vengeful. Sometimes I see people using every ounce of nerves that they have, and every dollar that they have, and every connection that they have to bring their spouse down. That spouse is the father of your children or the mother of your children. How can we ever forget that? This toxic divorce is going to ruin your children if you have children in the marriage. You can justify that on the day of judgment in our grave when the malaika, the angels, they question us and reckon with us. Can I justify that? Because of some worldly agreements or whatever, even if you're on the haq, you're the right. Never allow for a toxic divorce to happen. Children really suffer. So children coming from broken families and homes, they really suffer. And then we have to deal with this very complicated situation, which is the issue of child custody. It's a very sensitive area. Many families fight over that. People go to court to settle that. And it's very important for us to understand where Islamic law stands here, how to understand and appreciate the Islamic law and how to apply it. So in our discussion tonight, my dear brothers and sisters, we will examine the custody of children in Islamic law. This is an area that affects us, brothers and sisters. May Allah bless you. Inshallah, all of your marriages will succeed. But there's someone out there, a cousin, a friend, a community member that you know who has gone through this, is going through this, or will go through this. So having awareness about this will help us navigate this in a proper way. One of the biggest objections that I hear about child custody, and usually the respected mothers and the sisters, they have this objection. A number of scholars have ruled that until 2 years of age, custody is shared. So if a husband and a wife, they get divorced and they have a child, an infant under 2 years of age, custody is shared according to Islamic law. Then after that, scholars have different opinions here, but after that, a number of scholars have said the father has the right to custody. There are some people who find that troubling. I've heard some people, some respected mothers, some sisters who say this is unacceptable, this is unfair, this is unjust. I carried this child 9 months in my womb, and you tell me after 2 years the father has the right to custody? And some of them start to develop resentment against the religion of Islam. I've seen that. Some people have been pushed away from the religion because of this specific law. So let's try to navigate this as best as we can by being honest academically with our hadith and try to navigate it in our world today. So if anyone is struggling with such laws, here is the process that I respectfully want to walk you through so we can appreciate the Islamic laws that we have. First of all, it's important to know, even though you follow a marja and your marja has a specific ruling, it's important to know that the issue of child custody is not unanimously accepted by all scholars. There is no unanimous position on child custody. If you look at the fatwa of maraja throughout history until today, you find very diverse views. There are 7 or 8 primary fatwas on this, different takes on this. Some scholars tell you child custody is shared until 2. After that, the father has the right of custody. Some maraja and scholars, they say it's shared until 7. After that, the father has the right to custody. Some maraja have said if it's a boy, it's shared until 2. Then the father has the right of custody. If it's a girl, the custody is shared until 7, and then after that, the father has the right to custody. Some scholars disagree. Some maraja have a different opinion. Some maraja say no, it's shared custody until the age of 9. And some scholars like Shaykh al-Saduq rahmatullahi alayhi, who was one of the scholars of the past millennium, he said that his fatwa was that a mother has the right of custody until she remarries. If she remarries, the father gets the right. If she doesn't remarry, she has the right. Whether her child is 2, 3, 5, 7, 8, 9, it doesn't matter. So you see that we have a diversity of scholarly opinions. So if someone cannot accept the law that says, some of our maraja, such as Ayatollah Sistani, their fatwa is that until 2 years, it's shared custody. After that, the father has the right. If someone has an issue accepting this, first of all, I would say, there is a reason why your marja issues a law. If you believe your marja is the most knowledgeable and experienced and learned, respect that. At the end of the day, your marja is navigating all these laws, and this is the best fatwa that he can give you. I would show respect for that. But I know there are some people who still cannot accept a ruling like that. They just can't. I know some mothers, they're unable to accept that. If you find yourself unable to accept that fatwa, don't condemn Islam. Don't condemn the religion. Don't criticize the Shia. Know that we have a diversity of opinions. I just mentioned to you an example of the differences in fatwa that we have throughout history. So if something doesn't settle with you for what reason, you're not convinced, it's okay. At least don't develop a problem with the religion. Don't develop an issue with the Quran, because that's what's happening. I see some people, they're unable to accept some laws, they start attacking religion. And then they push themselves away from religion. Religion is backwards. I'm not interested in the hadith of Ahlul Bayt anymore. I don't want to come to majalis anymore. Why? Why? There's a difference of opinion. Scholars have different understandings of what the Ahlul Bayt said. Again, I invite you to respect the fatwa of your marja. If you've chosen a marja, there's a reason why you should have chosen him. Respect that. But if you're unable to accept the ruling, don't condemn the faith. Realize that there are differences of opinion. That is the first point of discussion. I walk you through this journey. The second one, you may wonder, why do we have all these differences in fatwas? What's going on here? The reason is, the ahadith are different. You see, when it comes to the Holy Quran, we don't have a verse that addresses child custody in detail. We have Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, verse 233, which speaks about the 2 years of nursing, breastfeeding. Allah states in this verse, وَالْوَالِدَاتُ يُرْضِعْنَ أَوْلَادَهُنَّ حَوْلَيْنِ كَامِلَيْنِ. The full term of nursing and suckling is 2 years. And then the Quran gives us advice. The Quran says no father should be harmed because of the child, and no mother should be harmed because of the child. One application of that is sometimes when we have a strained relationship, right? We weaponize the children. Have you seen that happening in a lot of families? We weaponize the children against the father or the mother, against the other spouse. The Quran teaches us don't do that. Don't harm any father because of a child. And don't harm any mother because of the child. Don't dare weaponize children against parents, against the other spouse. This is unacceptable in the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the closest thing that we have in the Quran. We don't have a verse in the Holy Quran that tells us exactly what custody is, how many years, who has the right in case of divorce. So we go to the Ahlul Bayt, to the Hadith. When we go to the world of Hadith, we see differences in Hadith. We have many categories of Hadith. I'll give you a small glimpse of that. One category of Hadith, which is a Sahih Hadith. You can find this Hadith in the book of Man La Yahdharuhu al-Faqih by Shaykh al-Saduq. It's a Sahih Hadith with an authentic chain. It's narrated by a man called Ayyub ibn Nuh, who is reliable. He says a man sent a letter to the 10th Imam, al-Imam al-Hadi salawatullahi alayhi. He told the Imam, I divorced my wife and I have a child. So he's asking about custody. According to this hadith, the Imam alayhi salam responded, he told him the following. He said, until 7 years, she has the right of custody. She is more rightful if that's what she wants to do, if she wants to exercise that right. So you see, we have a Sahih hadith that says 7. Until 7, the mother has the right, not the father. We do have a hadith, and it is a Sahih hadith. But then, you could argue, okay, if we have a Sahih hadith here, why haven't all scholars issued a fatwa based on it? Because we have conflicting hadiths too. There's another hadith in the book of Al-Kafi by Al-Kulayni, narrated from a companion by the name of Dawood ibn Hussein. He narrates this hadith from the 6th Imam of Ahlul Bayt, Al-Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam. He quotes the Imam giving us a deeper explanation of this verse that I recited, which is chapter 2, verse 233. وَالْوَالِدَاتُ يُرْضِعْنَ أَوْلَادَهُنَّ حَوْلَيْنِ كَامِلَيْنِ. The Imam talks about custody. In this hadith, the Imam alayhi salam says, during this time of suckling and nursing, custody is shared between the parents. So if they get a divorce, it's shared custody between the father and the mother. Then according to this hadith, the Imam says after 2 years, the father has the right. And this is the hadith that scholars like Sayyid Sistani, they have accepted this hadith and issued their fatwa based on it. The point is, the hadiths themselves are conflicting. And so scholars will use their efforts to navigate the world of hadith to determine which hadith is authentic. If you get a contradiction in the ahadith, how do you reconcile them? Scholars have different methodologies, and they spend so much time trying to figure that out. Now some of you, I know you're wondering, but why do we have conflicting hadiths in our works? There are many reasons. One reason is reports. Sometimes you find that the context is not given to you. The Imam said these words, but what did he say before that? What did he say after that? I don't have context. Is the Imam talking about a legal law when he says 7, the mother has the right? He talking about a psychological aspect that let the mother be close to her children until 7? I don't have context. right? Many times when you don't have context, you understand the hadith differently, and therefore you think it's contradicting another hadith, when in reality it's not contradicting it if you were to know the context. Sometimes the scribes who wrote these hadiths for us, they made mistakes. Scribes were not infallible. Remember, there weren't copy machines back then. If you wanted to copy a work, how did you do it? Manually. Sometimes these scribes, they'd get tired, they'd miss sometimes a single word, if it's omitted in a hadith, it will change the meaning. A single letter, vowel, conjunction can change the meaning. That's another reason for the difference in hadith that we have. Another reason is taqiyya. Sometimes the imams, they were being monitored by the state. And the state, they advocated for Allah. If the imam would challenge that law, they would kill the imam or persecute him and persecute the Shia. The imams had an obligation from Allah to protect the Shia so the Shia would survive. So if then the imam, sometimes he knew that he was being monitored by some of those spies, and he would be asked about a question, the imam would not tell you the real ruling. The imam would tell you the mainstream Sunni ruling at the time for the protection of the Shia and for the protection of the believers. Yes, this is taqiyya. We have a whole discussion on taqiyya and why the imams would do that. So maybe when the imam said this law, which is conflicting with another law, we have to figure out the context. Maybe that was taqiyya. And a lot of times scholars are able to figure that out. They gather clues and they'll tell you that hadith was issued in taqiyya mode. How do you know? He'll tell you because of these clues, and when you look at them, they make sense. So there are reasons why we have conflicting hadiths, but at the end of the day, maraja are the experts. They're the lawyers and the judges and the experts. They look at thousands of these rulings and they try to navigate them, and they tell you, to the best of my ability, I arrived at this judgment, at this ruling. We respect that. We respect the differences among the maraja brothers and sisters. I know this frustrates some people, especially with the moon sighting, especially when Eid comes, right? Oof, these maraja, why can't they get along and tell us, when does the moon start? It's complicated. The marja is not sitting there giving his personal preference. Believe me, every marja wishes you all celebrate one Eid. But they look at the sources. At the end of the day, on the day of judgment, they have to back it up. I have to prove why I gave that fatwa. I think sometimes we just don't appreciate that. And by the way, brothers and sisters, if one day, mark my words, if one day, before the zuhur of our imam, if one day you see all maraja agreeing on every single ruling, and they don't disagree on a single ruling, ask them, who are you working for? The fact that they disagree demonstrates to you the honesty and the healthy system that we have. Brothers and sisters, maraja are looking at hadiths and Quran 1,400 years ago. You want them to agree on every single detail? That's impossible. If there's an accident here in Toronto, before the age of these cameras, okay, now cameras can tell us everything. If there's an accident yesterday and there's no cameras on the intersection and the police is filing a report and they ask witnesses, what did you see? If you have witnesses on 4 sides of the intersection, they'll get most of the details the same, correct? But I'll guarantee you, the witnesses, they will give you slightly different information. Why? Because they're liars? No. Because each witness has a unique perspective. I saw the accident from this side. You saw it from the other side. There will be some differences. All the maraja and scholars, they're looking at one thing, Quran, Hadith. But everyone is looking from a unique angle. It's expected to have differences. I would be shocked if they agree on everything. And by the way, those differences are very small. You know the book of rulings, the Risala Amaliyah that your scholars have? Some of them contain 3,000 rulings. That's a lot. 3,000 rulings. They agree on 98% of them. You know where the difference is? Is in 2%. I know that 2% can be 50, 80, 100 rulings, but it's 2%. I'm unrealistic if I expect the scholars to even agree on this too. It's impossible. We come 1,000 years after the Imams. We're trying our best to see what the Imam said. It's not an easy task. Lawyers in your country and judges, they disagree every day about your constitution when your constitution was written 200, 300 years ago. You want the Maraja to agree on everything? It's impossible. It's unhealthy. In fact, I tell you, mark my words, if you see them one day agreeing on every ruling, tell them, who are you agents of? Who are you working for? Who's dictating to you these laws? That you agree on every one of them. The fact that they disagree is a source of rahmah. It shows that they're honestly trying to give you the best understanding that they have of these fatwas. So this is one reason why we have ikhtilaf in hadith, ikhtilaf in fatwa. Let's now move to the third point of our discussion. Now that you've seen this difference and we can appreciate the differences, let's speak a little bit about this particular fatwa which says shared custody until 2. After that, the father has the right. I know a lot of mothers are troubled by this. But my dear brothers and sisters, whenever you're troubled by a ruling or a hadith or a verse, as we said yesterday, zoom out. Zoom out, see the bigger picture, and understand at least the context. This hadith, if it was truly issued by the Imam, and that's what the